Today we're covering some of our best tips for traveling to Disney when your travel party are all adults. Hello and welcome to the Let's Go to Disney podcast. I'm Oliver.
And I'm Lucy.
Today is Wednesday, September 18th, and you're listening to episode 54, Walt Disney World Tips for Adult Trips. Before we get into today's main topic, here's what's going on in the parks right now. Fair warning, we're recording much earlier in the week than we normally do, and this episode is not being released for another 6 days, so if any big news drops in that time and it's not covered here, that's why. Having said that, there's some construction walls up at Hollywood Studios, and it's got nothing to do with the Monsters Land expansion. Over at Woody's Lunchbox in Toy Story Land, the seating area has been demolished. Where there used to be concrete flooring and tables and chairs, now there's dirt. Disney has yet to say what they're working on here, so we don't know if they're just revamping the seating area or if they're adding something new. We'll keep an eye on it and let you know when we know more. Temporary seating has been set up on the walkway leading to Galaxy's Edge from Toy Story Land in the interim. Pecos Bill Telltale Inn and Cafe over at Magic Kingdom has had a menu revamp. They now have a create your own selections with a choice of one of 4 bases. Steamed tamale with steamed green chili cheese tamale with stewed pinto beans, queso fresco, and pico de gallo. A nacho bowl with house-fried corn tortilla chips smothered with stewed pinto beans, chipotle queso, and pico de gallo. A rice bowl with stewed pinto beans, cilantro lime rice, cowboy caviar, pico de gallo, and queso fresco, and the Southwest Caesar salad with romaine tossed in a creamy salsa verde dressing, pepitas, queso fresco, pico de gallo, and tortilla strips. The protein choices are citrus chipotle chicken, green chili pork, or Coca-Cola cherry braised beef. That sounds interesting.
Yes, it does.
They also have 2 new entrees, the double chili con queso burger, which is 2 flame-broiled all-beef patties topped with chili lime con carne, chipotle queso, and corn chips served with barbecue cheddar seasoned fries. And the grilled masa flatbread, which is grilled corn flatbread topped with sweet potatoes, stewed pinto beans, plant-based pepper jack cheese, shredded lettuce, pico de gallo, and plant-based lime crema, which is plant-based, but you can add chicken, beef, or pork. Disney Parks blog shared a Disney Treasure update. The ship reached a milestone today when it was escorted via tugboat down the Ems River from Meyer Werft to open water before it makes its trip to the US. This is the newest addition to the Disney fleet, where it's set to have its first sailing later this year. So, like we said, we're recording this episode in advance since we're leaving for Orlando on Friday. By the time this episode airs, we're going to be in Walt Disney World. That's actually going to be the day we're doing the Keys to the Kingdom tour in the morning and Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party that evening. We'll recap our trip for you guys when we return, and we're going to be able to record that episode when we come home and get it out in time for next week's episode. We're not going to lie, those recap episodes are our favorite ones. It's like fun to relive the magic and talk about, what worked, what went well, and what we do different next time.
Absolutely. One thing we wanted to share with you guys today, though, is our experience booking our lightning lanes when our 7-day window opened, which for us was 2 days ago on Monday. Reminder that we're at Universal the first few days of this trip, and that's why our 7-day window is further out than when we actually leave. Now, as we said before, we're annual pass holders, so you would think that we would have to make our selections day by day, but because we have a resort stay booked, that takes precedent, and we were able to take advantage of that 7-day booking window. This is a great perk for resort guests and a good incentive to stay on property. Anyways, we're on Central Time here, so we had to get up around 4:40 a.m. to make sure that we were ready to go for 5 a.m., which is 7 a.m. Eastern Time. We brewed a pot of coffee, sat down next to each other at the kitchen table with our laptop open and our game plan laid out, and then we were ready to go when the clock struck 5. The way we played it was I was booking Hollywood Studios, which is our first day for which we were purchasing multi-pass, and then the second day of our trip. Oliver was booking our very last day of our trip, which is Magic Kingdom Day. He was able to get a Tiana's Bayou Adventure at 9:25, which is awesome time, and that's 9:25 a.m.
Yep.
Pirates at 10:25 a.m. and then Haunted Mansion at 11:25 a.m. One thing to note there, these are all morning times and are all an hour apart. We got really lucky with Magic Kingdom. This isn't by our design. The system will actually make these gaps for you. You cannot overlap when booking at 7 days, or at least not nearly as much as you could on your actual park day. And even if you try to modify the time to an earlier time, it actually won't let you pick if any times overlap too closely with your other booking. Whereas if you're booking in the park, you can definitely overlap as much as 40 minutes if you want. Just something to keep in mind there. So if you can't figure out why exactly you're not being able to get a better time. But overall, we were super happy with that.
Yeah, for sure. The Magic Kingdom Day was awesome. Animal Kingdom too, for that matter, but we'll get to that in a second. Now, Lucy, who was booking Hollywood Studios at the same time, wasn't so lucky because that was earlier in our booking window. All of the attractions we selected had already slipped later into the afternoon. So we got Slinky Dog Dash for 5:05 p.m. Toy Story Mania, I think initially was 3:25 p.m. and Tower of Terror for noon. We tried modifying these times, but haven't had much luck since. Having said that, I was able to get a Toy Story Midway Mania at 11 a.m., which is obviously better, but we're a little disappointed, right? We definitely are going to keep checking back again at the 3-day window and again at our actual park day to try to modify for better times. Guests have reported Disney dropping more times leading up to and on the actual day of your visit. We're no strangers to refreshing, so we're going to be trying real hard for that, and I'm confident we'll be able to better those times, even just a little bit. For Epcot, we were able to get Remy's, Mission Space, and Spaceship Earth all in the morning fairly easily. We're happy with those times, and same thing for Animal Kingdom. Now, you may ask, I thought you guys don't do lightning lanes at Animal Kingdom, and you'd be correct. We normally don't, but we did for this trip because since you don't have to pay for multiple parks, multi-pass, like you had to do with Genie Plus if you wanted to use it in more than one park. The cost of multi-pass is the cost wherever you start your day. So we decided to do it, and we may hop to another park that afternoon. We were also able to get Lightning Lane single passes for Tron, Guardians of the Galaxy, Rise of the Resistance, and Flight of Passage on each of those days. No problem.
Yeah,
those
no
were
problem.
Easy to get.
Super easy to get. So long story short, here's our key takeaways. In terms of Lightning Lane availability, it seems to work a lot like dining. Earlier in your booking window, times for the more popular Tier 1 and Tier 2 attractions will be harder to come by. Later in your booking window, you'll have much more selections available to you when it comes to return times. Because Tiana's Bayou Adventure is so popular right now, we suggest putting your Magic Kingdom day or a second Magic Kingdom day if you are doing 2 days at the end of your trip to take advantage of that booking window. Based on availability, it looks as though Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios are super more competitive than Epcot and Animal Kingdom.
Sure seems that way.
Like I've been looking at it every day since Monday. The times are still great at Epcot and Animal Kingdom. So like we said, the ability to overlap plans is very limited at this stage, but once you start using it on the day of your visit, you'll be able to then overlap by as much as 40 minutes. And lastly, the system seems to be a little glitchy, at least it was for us. So here's what we ran into. The first time I actually tried to book our Hollywood Studios day, I was completely booted out. It just said, I can't even remember what the error said. It was just, you've lost, basically.
You had to restart.
Go to start again. Times were actually very good the second time I went in. We got really lucky in it.
Yeah, we got lucky, all things considered.
But definitely precious seconds were lost. And then the same thing happened to Oliver the first time he actually tried to book his Epcot day, our Epcot day, I should say.
Exactly, because I was booted and I also had to restart. And when I restarted, I felt rushed. So I sped through the menus and ended up making plans for solely myself.
Just himself. He did not want me to join him that day.
So I purchased, Lightning Lane Multipass and made my selections and bought the Lightning Lane single pass for Guardians again, just for me. By some miracle, Lucy made her plans immediately after and somehow was able to book the exact same times for the exact same rides.
Not even a half-hour difference, the exact same time.
100%. I'm still in disbelief about that. I called Disney not long after to ask if they could merge our plans, and that was a non-starter. But get this, another super weird thing happened. Monday night when the kids were in bed and Lucy and I were winding down for the evening, I checked our plans on my phone and our plans were merged. So the multi-passes and the single passes that we booked separately are now joint and show 2 guests. So I don't know what happened. Like still to this minute, as we're recording this, I don't know what happened. Did the system do it on its own? Did the cast member I spoke to on the phone figure it out like shortly after we hung up and like made the changes for me? And I'll likely never know. But either way, I'm happy it happened. Now, if we have to modify those plans for whatever reason leading up to or on our actual day, we can do it together and not individually. So long story short, we got it done. Okay, we're mostly happy with how it turned out with a couple of little hiccups and a less than ideal Hollywood Studios day. Though, like we said, we're confident we're going to be able to rectify that, even if it's just a little bit better times.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not worried about it at all. So with that said, let's get into today's main topic, which is tips for traveling to Walt Disney World for an adults-only trip. So despite what people think, you don't need to be traveling with kids or even have kids for that matter to enjoy Walt Disney World. The parks are meant to be enjoyed by people of all ages, and they do cater to people of all ages. You can certainly have a great time at Disney as an adult. There's lots of activities, tours, events, lounges, nightlife that cater to the older demographic, and you can 100% have a magical vacation. Oliver and I go down, just the 2 of us, once a year, and we always have a blast. This trip that we are on as we speak, given when this episode will air, is a trip just the 2 of us, and we know we're going to have a really good time and that we'll actually be able to experience and do some things that we wouldn't be able to do if we had our kids with us. Do we feel guilty going to Disney without our kids? Yes, we'd be lying if we said we didn't. My coworkers razz me every single day about it. They always tell me, we're going to tell your kids where you are. So yeah, we'd be lying for sure if we said we didn't. But we do take solace in the fact that they also get to go at least once a year, and they're certainly not deprived by any means. Yep. It's just such a different vacation while we're traveling, just the two of us. We're much more relaxed. We tackle the parks, and then overall vacation is a much different feel. It's like date night, really, like going out for supper with the kids and going out just the two of us, much different vibe. And that's totally okay. You're allowed to have fun in Disney without kids if you enjoy the parks, or without your kids if you have them.
Yep, agreed 100%. So let's get into some tips and considerations for adult-only trips. So let's preface this by saying that a lot of the tips we give on the podcast apply to traveling with or without kids, right? So, like booking lightning lanes, rope drop strategy, making dining reservations, and so on. There's a lot of overlap there. So the tips we'll give you here are some of the things you can do on top of, or even instead of, to make your trip a little bit more adult-oriented if you're traveling without littles. So up first, transportation. So when it's adults only, don't be afraid to be flexible and let your plans be more fluid. It's a lot easier to travel with adults than it is with children for the most part. We find that figuring out, logistics like how are you going to get to Walt Disney World? Where are you going to stay? How are you going to get around? All of these plans become a little easier to execute. So for example, getting from the airport to your resort, it's really easy to hail an Uber or a Lyft with a couple of adults, right? You don't have to worry about car seats or anything like that. You just pop your bags in the trunk and away you go. This is by far the quickest and easiest way to get to Walt Disney World from Orlando International. It's not the cheapest route, but it can come pretty close, especially if you're traveling with friends and you're splitting the cost. Traveling around property also becomes easier. You won't have to carry as much on your person, meaning you only have to bring like what you need, right? You don't have to bring diapers or wipes or kids' snacks or change of clothes, right? And if you want to take a ride share to get around property, well, it's much easier to do that as well. Plus, you don't have to worry about a stroller or anything like that. So, taking Disney transportation is also a little bit more stress-free. If you don't have kids, this is kind of a no-brainer, and it's, just how you live. But if you do have children and have traveled with them, and now you're doing a solo trip, you can quickly see how much more like freedom you're going to have, especially when it comes to getting to and around the parks.
Absolutely. And then another thing we suggest for adults only trips is park hopper tickets. If you've been listening to the show for a while, we don't normally advocate for park hopper tickets for guests who are there for their first time or guests who don't travel to Disney very often. The reason for this is that you can actually spend a full day in each park and not be able to actually experience everything. So it's best to plan to spend a whole day in each park, especially if it's your first time, for sure.
Agreed.
And also, you're not putting pressure on yourself to hop if you don't want to, because if you've paid for it, you pretty much feel obligated to do so, even if you're not ready to leave the park you're actually currently in.
It's like you're guilted into using what you've paid for.
Absolutely. Yeah. But if you're an adult, it's a lot easier to park hop. So the park hopper tickets actually are a really good idea. So here's an example. You can start your day at Magic Kingdom, go really hard in the morning, utilize lightning lanes and standby queues to have a really efficient morning. Then in the afternoon, you grab the monorail and you hop over to Epcot, walk around the World Showcase, enjoy the food at the booths for whatever festival is happening during that time. Or maybe you start your day at Animal Kingdom because it opens the earliest, get a lot done, start booking lightning lanes in Hollywood Studios for the afternoon and evening. Then you can hop on over to there, have dinner, ride the attractions that you've booked, and enjoy Fantasmic. Long story short, it's not that you can't do this with kids. It's just that with adults, it's a lot more flexible and easier to roll with the punches and pivot plans on a dime, really. We have hopped with our kids on occasion, but we do it much more frequently when it's just Oliver and I.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like we are much more flexible. We're much more likely to change plans on the fly than we are with the kids. And it's not that we have hop with the kids, like Lucy said, but we just don't do it nearly as often. Another thing we advocate for as well is to stay on property. And we always advocate for this. So how is it different from the advice we normally give? Well, some resorts are much more themed and feel much more Disney than others, while others are more subtle Disney and, have more relaxed vibes. So a perfect example of this is Coronado Springs. We've talked about it before, but this resort is beautiful and has some really good dining options that definitely feel more adult and more upscale, especially the Grand Destino Tower, you guys. The rooms in there are very subtly themed, right? So there's hidden Mickeys like in the carpet and the wallpaper, but not much else aside from that. And it feels deluxe, even though it's a moderate resort. The tower especially has the feel of a deluxe resort. It's home to one of our favorite restaurants on all of Disney property, which is Three Bridges. The restaurant literally intersects Three Bridges in the middle of the lagoon that is surrounded by all the other resort buildings. Other options like Toledo and Dahlia Lounge are definitely more adult restaurants, and it's just like a great resort to stay at. When we go, just Lucy and I, we often stay at Coronado for this reason and this reason only, right? It's a really nice resort and the food is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Like some people complain about the transportation that it's bus only, but it's so central. It's close to Epcot,
So easy.
close to Hollywood Studios, really close to Animal Kingdom. It's furthest from Magic Kingdom, but that's true of most resorts.
We've never had any issues with the buses from Coronado at
Agreed.
all.
Yep, agreed.
So we also recommend Port Orleans French Quarter as well as Port Orleans Riverside. Both are beautiful, but French Quarter especially is quite small, so it feels intimate and quiet and is really good for an adult-only trip. It does have some good dining options as well. Stop at Scat Cat's Club Cafe for those delicious beignets, and then Scat Cat's Club Lounge is also a good stop for a cocktail after a very long park day. Then head over to Riverside at Boat Rides for New Orleans-style food. Love New Orleans-style food. So delicious. The grounds here are beautiful as well. It definitely feels more serene than other resorts like Caribbean Beach Resort, for example. It's not that Caribbean Beach is bad by any means. It's just feels a lot busier and it's in the middle of the action.
Yeah, right on the Skyliner.
Yeah, whereas the Port Orleans resorts feel much more relaxed. They kind of feel secluded when you're there.
Yeah, which is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus they have a boat direct to Disney Springs, which is really nice to be able to just pop over there via boat. And it's a really nice ride too.
Agreed, yeah, 100%. And over in the boardwalk area, there's the Swan and Dolphin, and by extension, the Swan Reserve right across the street. So these are steps from the boardwalk. Although they're not Disney proper hotels, they're actually owned by Marriott. They do qualify for most of the same perks, though, including extended evening hours. So these are good for adults because they're not themed to Disney at all, right? But they do give you access to Epcot's International Gateway entrance, which is great, especially during festivals like Food and Wine. It's also a quick walk to the Skyliner station there as well. Plus, these resorts are generally a little to a lot less expensive than the Disney resorts nearby, which are all deluxe resorts, and the prices reflect that.
Oh, absolutely.
Still at the boardwalk, there's the Disney's Boardwalk Inn. It has bed and breakfast vibes from 1940s Atlantic City, and it's a great choice for a deluxe resort. It's not quite as popular or as busy as Yacht and Beach Club across the water, but it still has the same great perks of being on the boardwalk and all the food and the entertainment that entails, including quick access to Epcot and the Skyliner.
Absolutely. And then over in the Magic Kingdom area, we definitely recommend the Wilderness Lodge. This is a great place to stay with your kids, but it's distinctly quieter and more relaxed than the other Magic Kingdom area resorts. It's not quite as convenient as being on the monorail, although it's so close to Magic Kingdom as well. Again, if you're just a group of adults, you don't have to worry about transportation as much. So this may actually be a really good option. Plus, it also has another one of our favorite restaurants on property, and that's Geyser Point Bar and Grill. Great food, delicious cocktails, in an open air space overlooking the water. Yes, please.
Yeah, 100%. It's really good there.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah. And of the monorail resorts, the one we suggest to adult groups the most is Grand Floridian. So some people say it feels like stuffy or, hoity-toity there, but really the rooms are beautiful. It's got some phenomenal dining options, like next level, right? Even their quick service restaurant, Gasparilla Island Grill, is seriously delicious. The resort definitely has an upscale vibe, and it's the least in-your-face Disney of the monorail resorts, in our opinion. With all that said, what's your favorite resort to stay at when it's just us?
Coronado Springs, hands down.
Yeah, I have to say too. Yeah.
No doubt about it.
It's just so good there. The food is good. The transportation is good. The vibes are great. It's well priced. It's not as expensive as those deluxe resorts, but we don't miss those deluxe resorts when we're staying there. It's just much it's that nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Coronado Springs, hands down.
Yeah. So now when it comes to the best park for adults, we don't really have an answer for that, right? So we always do every park on every trip. And this is because two reasons. One, we love each park for different reasons. They all have something to offer and we feel they're worth visiting every time. And two, we live far. Okay, so when we go down, we want to make the most out of it and see as much as we can while we're down there. Having said that, as the years have gone on and as we've spent more time in the parks, two parks stand out as being the most enjoyable when it's just the two of us, but head and shoulders above the rest in our opinion, and the best park for adults is Epcot. Okay, it's not even close. It has the most food and drink options, which is an attraction in and of itself and one that will appeal to an older demographic. Literally, one of our favorite things to do at Walt Disney World is snack and drink around the World Showcase during the festivals. We love doing the food scavenger hunts like Emil's Fromage Montage. We could easily spend all day in the park just doing that, right? Popping in for an attraction here and there and then eating and enjoying the drinks. It's become my favorite park. And it also happens to be home to the best coaster on Disney property at the moment, and that's Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. I think you'd agree with that.
Oh, hands down.
And the other park we've grown to love even more with subsequent trips is Animal Kingdom. Often the one to get overlooked, it's a solid park. Okay, Pandora World of Avatar is quite possibly the most beautiful land in all of Walt Disney World. Flight of Passage is amazing. The park has some really, really good dining and snack options as well. And best of all, the vibes here are so relaxed. I always say Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios for the rides, Epcot and Animal Kingdom for the vibes. We never feel stressed at Animal Kingdom. It's always a nice, easygoing day. And we usually put it on the back of a Magic Kingdom day because of that exact reason. Don't get us wrong. We absolutely love Hollywood Studios and Magic Kingdom. And like we said, we will always do all parks regardless. But again, the most relaxed vibes, the best food and drinks are at Epcot and Animal Kingdom. Plus, Epcot has the benefit of being steps from the boardwalk with walking access to all those resorts, all those restaurants, and that nightlife.
Absolutely. All right, next up, let's talk dining. So again, dining with adults only, we find it opens up a world of opportunities. It's not that the places we'll mention don't allow kids, although some don't actually below a certain age and after a certain time, but for the most part, anyone can visit these. We tend to eat at different places when it's just the two of us versus when we have our kids with us, mostly because of the atmosphere and the menu options. So in the 4 parks, here are some of the restaurants we definitely recommend for your adult party. At Magic Kingdom, Jungle Navigation Company Limited Skipper Canteen, or Skipper Canteen for short, is a really good option. It's got some more adventurous food items above and beyond your usual theme park fare, and this can put off certain families with pickier eaters, but guaranteed your adult party will definitely find something good to eat here. We love this place. The theming is fun, and the cast members make funny jokes riddled with puns. It's definitely a solid choice. And then another fun restaurant is Be Our Guest. This isn't a traditional character dining experience because the Beast doesn't actually stop at your table to interact. But the experience of dining in Beast Castle, seeing the different dining rooms, is in and out of itself like a very cool experience. And the food is actually really good there.
Agreed, yeah.
It's definitely worth doing at least once. So this is definitely not our first pick with the kids. And not because the kids wouldn't necessarily like this place, but simply because I know most children all prefer certain other restaurants more. We're much more likely to go here if it's just the two of us.
Yeah, agreed 100%. At Hollywood Studios, we recommend Sci-Fi Drive-In Theater. So this is by far our favorite restaurant in this park. So the theming is awesome. It's a 1950s drive-in theme. The ceiling looks like the night sky. There's a large screen in front, like playing black and white sci-fi movies. And the booths are shaped like cars and all face the screen. It's kept dark and it's pretty quiet in here. And it's the perfect place to stop and enjoy a meal.
It really is.
We would absolutely take the kids here, although the kids would likely enjoy restaurants like Roundup Rodeo Barbecue or Hollywood and Vine more.
Yeah, that's true.
At Epcot, you've got several options. One of our personal favorites is La Hacienda de San Angel, which is across from the Pyramid at the Mexico Pavilion. Now, you might ask, isn't the restaurant inside the Pyramid, San Angel in restaurant, a better option? You'd think, but we actually prefer the food at La Hacienda. Although the theming inside San Angel is awesome, being that it's inside the pyramid itself, we prefer the menu at La Hacienda. It's really good and it has similar drinks to La Cava del Tequila, including that avocado margarita, which is like sneaky delicious.
Yeah, you really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, 100%. Another good option is Spice Road Table in the Morocco Pavilion. This has some tapas-style menu items that are out of the norm for theme park food, but they're all delicious. They've got beautiful outdoor seating along the World Showcase Lagoon. It has nice, relaxed vibes. This is a good place to stop when you're an adult-only group for sure.
Absolutely. And if you're looking for that more elevated experience, you've definitely got a couple options. Takumi Te inside the Japan Pavilion, this is definitely a very expensive experience. So think over $200 per person. And although we've actually never eaten here ourselves, we've heard nothing but good things. And it definitely is on our list of places to try eventually. There is a dress code here: clean, neat attire, in good condition, and no swimwear. And guests must be aged 8 years or older to dine here. There's also Monsieur Paul in the France Pavilion. This is also very expensive. I think it comes in just under $200 per person for a fixed price, upscale French menu. So there is a dress code here as well, and guests must be 10 years or older to eat here. Then you also have Le Cellier in the Canadian Pavilion, which is actually a really good steakhouse-style restaurant with a more sophisticated vibe. It's not nearly as expensive as Monsieur Paul or Takumi Te, but it's definitely very good nonetheless. The cheddar bacon soup is delicious and definitely worth trying if you plan on eating at this restaurant. There are several options here at Epcot. Like we said earlier, this park has a lot to offer to the older demographic, especially when it comes to food and dining options.
Agreed 100%. Like it's by far it's the foodie park, right?
Oh,
like,
gosh.
It's known for that.
There's no competition, really.
Exactly, and it delivers.
Yeah.
And last but certainly not least, for parks is Animal Kingdom. So a good option here is Tiffin's, which is a signature restaurant. It has some delicious options that, again, differ from your standard theme park fare. They also have good bread service here. Not quite as good as the bread service over at Sanaa Animal Kingdom Lodge, which is phenomenal. But it's still good, okay? Yak and Yeti is another good option here as well. The restaurant has an extensive Pan-Asian inspired menu, and it definitely has some more adventurous as well as safer options as well. So
Absolutely.
It caters to both, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So switching gears here a bit, when it comes to lounges in the parks, here are our favorites. So Magic Kingdom doesn't actually have lounges. because the only places that serve alcohol inside Magic Kingdom Park are the table service restaurants. Although there is that Pirates of the Caribbean themed tavern coming to the park in the future, and I'm curious to see what the situation is going to be there. If it's going to be like,
mocktails or
mocktails, or if it's going to be kind of like Oga's Cantina,
I could see
where
that.
like you need a reservation, so maybe they can kind of classify it as like a table service.
Yeah,
so
I don't know.
That. Yeah, I don't know what the situation is going to be there. They haven't announced that. At Hollywood Studios, we love Baseline Tap House. They have an awesome pretzel and charcuterie board here and some good drinks and cocktails as well. This is a standard stop for Lucy and I when it's just the two of us. Like, we like to grab our eats and drinks. We sit on the patio and we people watch. We're actually almost certainly going to do that on this trip as well.
Yes.
At Epcot, we suggest La Cava del Tequila. That's actually inside the pyramid. It has really limited seating, so just something to be mindful of there. And you can have Chips Trio here, which is guac, queso, and salsa, and wash it down with one of their delicious margaritas. Great place to stop. Another good option is the bar inside Rose and Crown. You don't need a reservation for the bar, and they have some good beer and blend options here. We like to grab fish and chips from Yorkshire County Fish Shop and a beer from Rose and Crown. Nice combination that goes well together. And last but not least, our favorite lounge in any park is No Man Lounge at Animal Kingdom. So this is the lounge that actually is attached to Tiffin's. It's got lovely outdoor seating overlooking the water. They have some really good cocktails on the menu, and they have a delicious menu as well, including the bread service from Tiffin's next door. The churros here are actually really tasty, some of, if not the best you can find in all of Walt Disney World.
I completely agree with that. All right, so still on dining, but at the resorts now, we really like California Grill on the top floor of the Contemporary. This is an upscale prix-fixe restaurant with great views of the Seven Seas Lagoon and Magic Kingdom Park. Also, you can watch the fireworks from this restaurant, and if you were there earlier, you can bring your receipt back and then just watch the fireworks from their balcony. It's a really great idea to do that.
Agreed.
They dim the lights and pipe in the music during the show. So Contemporary Resort also has a Steakhouse 71, and it's a full-blown steakhouse for dinner, but then they have lighter options for lunch. We like to have lunch here from time to time during our Magic Kingdom days. The Stack Burger is really good.
Yeah, agreed 100%. Definitely worth getting.
And then at the Polynesian, you've got Ohana. Now, this is actually a super family-friendly place. Having said that, our kids actually didn't really like this place at all. So it's actually somewhere we'll just go, just Oliver and I. The food is served family style, the noodles and the bread pudding being the absolute highlights. One of our favorites and definitely worth a stop.
Yep, we're going again this trip.
We are.
And Grand Floridian has Narcoossee's, which is a beautiful restaurant, which also has great views of Seven Seas Lagoon and Magic Kingdom. They have a good elevated surf and turf menu. Citrico's is another option at this resort and has some stellar menu items and subtle Mary Poppins vibes. They have a delicious varied menu here as well, and also it definitely feels like more adult there. Over at the Epcot area resorts, you've got Yachman Steakhouse, which is at the Yacht Club Resort. This is a solid steakhouse and a good option if you're in the boardwalk or at Epcot and you're looking for a really good meal. You could pop out of the International Gateway entrance and come eat here. You've also got the Flying Fish, which is across the water along the boardwalk. This serves up delicious surf and turf options for an elevated experience, and the restaurant itself is actually really nice inside. And over at Animal Kingdom Lodge, you've got several options. So Sanaa, like we mentioned before, is a delicious restaurant that overlooks the savannah there. And this is where you're going to find that awesome bread service, right? So honestly, it's worth coming here just for that.
We did that.
Yeah, 100%. We had something else, but we
but
definitely had the bread service.
Reason,
yeah.
Yes.
Still at Animal Kingdom Lodge, Jiko is a signature restaurant with delicious African cuisine. And lastly, Boma, still at Animal Kingdom Lodge, is also really good. It's a buffet restaurant with African and American options. You can eat as many zebra domes here as you want because it's on the dessert tray.
Yeah.
We're actually eating here on our first night at Disney after we check in at Animal Kingdom Lodge on the 23rd.
The resorts also have some really great lounges, and at the monorail resorts, two of our favorites are the Enchanted Rose at the Grand Floridian, which is a beautiful space to have a cocktail, and then Trader Sam's Grog Grotto at the Polynesian. This is definitely the best and most fun-themed lounge on all of Disney property, in our opinion. It's pretty hard to get into. It usually opens at 3 p.m. And then during busy hours, people will actually line up outside before it opens to get their names on the wait list.
It's wildly popular.
Yeah, it is. What we've done before to get in is we've checked in, went for dinner at Ohana, and then grabbed a drink there afterwards. Depending on what you order, you'll get different reactions from the cast members and the lounge itself. It's so much fun in there, and we definitely recommend it. After 8 p.m., it's 21 and over, so there will be no kids in there past that time. So it's definitely a good spot to go and have a couple of drinks. There's Territory Lounge at Wilderness Lodge as well. That's a really good place to grab a drink. Over at the Boardwalk area, the Bellevue Lounge at Boardwalk is a nice space with seating on the veranda there. Really, any of the deluxe resorts have really decent lounges. And like we said earlier, There are 2 nice lounges at Coronado Springs as well. The Dahlia Lounge across from Toledo on the top floor, and then the Barcelona Lounge in the lower lobby.
Yeah, fun thing about the Barcelona Lounge too is like obviously in the evening they'll serve like cocktails and small bites and stuff, but in the morning they open super early at 6:30 and you can grab coffee before you go. They have like specialty coffees or just like brewed coffee.
Yep, absolutely.
So as you can see, the deluxe resorts have some really good dining and lounge options, so it's worth checking out the available options there and seeing if anything piques your interest. The best meals we've had on property have been the deluxe resorts, like for sure.
Absolutely.
Like even that we didn't even mention, but like Topolino's.
Yep, absolutely. Topolino's is amazing.
Another great place for dining and lounges is Disney Springs, right? So again, some of the best restaurants and lounges on property can be found here. So good dining options that also have good nightlife in Disney Springs are Raglan Road, Jock Lindsay's Hangar Bar, which is themed to Indiana Jones, Morimoto Asia, STK, Haleo, Wine Bar George, House of Blues, The Edison, and Boathouse. Some of these places will have live music, performers, DJs, and of course, good food and fun drinks. And the last thing we'll suggest doing surrounding food and drink that could be fun for adults are crawls. So not unlike eating and drinking around the world at Epcot, but doing it in different places on property. And this doesn't necessarily always have to be drinking, right? It can be snacks, mocktails, coffees, whatever you like.
Absolutely.
You could do a resorts crawl and where you head to as many resorts as you can, have a drink or a snack at each one. Every resort has at least one quick service location where you can do this. You can check menus as you go from place to place and find something you'd like to try. The best part is exploring resorts you haven't seen or haven't stayed at before to kind of see if it's somewhere where you maybe want to stay in the future.
Absolutely. Some of our favorite times when we've just been the two of us is just resort hopping. We just
exploring
find it so
the resorts.
Fun. Yep.
Absolutely. It's a good time.
Yep.
You could also do a monorail crawl where you head to the 3 monorail resorts. So depending on the season, you could check out decorations around Christmas time. Your crawl could be having a Christmas snack at each of the resorts or something similar. You could also do the same thing with a Skyliner crawl and visit all of the Skyliner resorts. These are all fun things to do on property that differ from your standard park day stuff.
All right, so moving on now, let's talk about tours, experiences, and shows. Walt Disney World has several tours that are super informative, fun, and right up your alley if you're a Disney adult and you're looking for some behind-the-scenes look at some of the offerings at Disney World. Some of the standouts for this are Keys to the Kingdom tour. This is a 5-hour walking tour around Magic Kingdom that goes over the history of the park, takes you into the utilidors and backstage of certain attractions. We are doing this for the first time coming up, and we are so giddy with excitement about this because we love Disney and we can't wait to see it.
Absolutely.
Guests must actually be 16 years or older to experience this tour, so it's definitely meant for older teens and adults. There's the Behind the Seeds tour, which takes you backstage at Living with the Land attraction and goes over the fish and food that is grown at the attraction and used in the restaurants across the park. This tour does allow kids, but adults are definitely going to get much more out of it. I know our kids would be bored.
Yeah.
Wild Africa Trek is a 3-hour privately guided tour of Animal Kingdom Park. You'll walk in and experience backstage areas and see some of the magic that keeps Animal Kingdom running. Such a cool experience.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. And the resorts will also have activities geared towards adults. So Animal Kingdom Lodge has the Starlight Safari. This is going to take you on a nighttime tour of the savannah at the resort, right? So you're going to be able to see the animals with night vision devices and see some of the action that happens at night, right? A lot of the animals are nocturnal, so you get a completely different view once the sun goes down. Guests must be at least 8 years or older to participate. At Coronado Springs, at Three Bridges, they do a Sangria University. Here you're going to learn about the history of Sangria. You're going to sample the house sangrias with some light bites, and the cast member will lead you through making your own sangria that you're going to be able to enjoy. We did this back in 2022. Gray was our cast member, and he was absolutely awesome.
So awesome. He was so fun.
He was also our waiter the very first time we ate there when we were actually staying there. And we remembered him, obviously, from that time.
He did not remember us.
But either way, he's awesome.
He's so awesome.
And we had a great time. And over at Disney Springs, you have the Cirque du Soleil show, Drawn to Life. This is a really great show that the whole family will enjoy. But again, adults are going to get more out of this, right? So you can make this part of a fun evening out at Disney Springs or a whole day at Disney Springs if you wanted to. That's another thing, too, that we didn't mention. But you can easily do a day at Disney Springs if you're adults.
Totally.
We would never spend more than probably 3-4 hours with our kids there. Go, an hour or two before our dining reservations, check out World of Disney, the Lego store, some of those
Standard,
things.
Yeah.
But eventually it's stores, right? So
they get bored.
Our kids get bored of that. So, we can do it maybe, like we said, 3-4 hours with them. Yeah. But Lucy and I could easily do a whole day.
Oh my God. We would go into every store. You could do some bowling. You could go see a movie and say, yeah, I saw a movie in Disney Springs.
Absolutely.
It's fun.
Yeah, agreed.
So with all that said, like we mentioned at the beginning, the nuts and bolts of what we suggest doesn't change whether you have your kids or not, or kids or not. You're still going to go to the parks, experience the attractions and the entertainment like fireworks and parades, but you'll have much more flexibility. You'll likely eat much differently, and you can experience some things you wouldn't be able to if you were traveling with kids. And it's not that we prefer to travel without our kids. We love both vacations, whether they're with us or not. But it is nice to experience the parks just us as a couple as well. We can march to the beat of our own drum. We don't have to worry if anyone is getting hungry, tired, or needs to go to the bathroom. When we're hungry, we eat. When we're tired, we take a nap. We do what we want.
Yep, it's nice, right? Yeah. If you're considering a trip to Disney and you don't have kids and wonder if you'd had fun, okay, do it. We guarantee that you will, and it has so much to offer people of all ages. If you have kids and you're thinking about an adult-only trip, again, do it. You may feel bad, but at the end of the day, whether you take a vacation to a southern destination, right, like Mexico, like an all-inclusive or something like that, or, a wine tasting trip or whatever you do as a couple alone, what does it matter where you're doing it, right? This is kind of how we look at it. We like to take a week once a year for just us, and because we love traveling to Disney, that's where we go. Does that make us bad parents? Some people will tell you yes, right? But you know what? It makes us happy, and that's not so bad.
So with that being said, thank you so much for joining us today to talk Disney adult trips. We hope it's helpful, and if you are or you do decide to take an adult-only trip, let loose and enjoy it.
Make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes, and if you could leave us a rating and review, it would be greatly appreciated. It helps us reach more listeners so that we can be found by more folks planning Disney trips. And you can leave us reviews right on Apple Podcasts, and for Spotify, you can leave a rating.
You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at letsgo.to-disney, as well as on our Facebook page, Let's Go to Disney. We share helpful reels here as well as some fun ones. The link tree in the show notes will take you to all of our socials.
Have a great day, and we'll see you real soon.